How did you get the part of Ezio?
The boring answer is I auditioned. I showed up at an audition, and they had given us, I think, some basic sort of like visuals of what the character looked like, and then we're just describing these age ranges that they wanted us to try to audition with, and that really was the process. I don't think the character was even named at that point. I knew they wanted it Italian. I don't think that at that time I was really masterful, not that I am now, with the Italian accent, but it was just an audition.
And what was the process of finding the voice? Ezio could have been a cliche, but he's obviously much more than that.
Well, I guess the process was this is an interesting thing because there were so many people involved in this. From a dialogue perspective, what would people at that time in Renaissance era Italy have spoken like? How would they speak Italian? What way do we want when we're speaking English to have that sort of like translate? So there was a lot of like input and a lot of playing around, and that was, I think, beneficial because it helped me find and sort of develop the character kind of on the fly. Because I didn't just walk in and go like, "Here's your Ezio. This is young Ezio. This is," and it wasn't that. It was like, how young do we want some texture? Like, is it high pitched? Is he younger? You know, like all these things that we play around with just to kind of come up with a vocal print, which is very funny because when I do the voice now, like if somebody wants to hear it just on the fly, I'm always like nervous. Inhabiting that mind space, inhabiting that character when you work on it so diligently with so many people is how you kind of lock in. It was a collaborative effort, it always is. It's a director, it's the writers, it's everybody involved to kind of say, yeah, we think this works, or this sounds good, or we like this approach. But yeah, it was a drawn out process. I guarantee you probably the first 2 or 3 sessions were probably just playing around trying to find what works, what sounds good. And in the end, I call it Italia Spanglinish, because it's a blend of Italian in certain ways that we honor certain consonants being tapped, and then uncontracting English words, and then taking Spanish to add a little bit of that romance and that romantic element to him. And so I always just say it's like Italia Spanglinish is the official accent.
So Ezio's personality and tone obviously evolves as the series progresses. Did you have any input on that?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, a lot of this, when it comes to like developing a character, is you're given the script, you work on it, and inevitably there's times where maybe a line is just something that sort of like violates what you understand to be the character, and so maybe I would push back, especially once 2 came out, and suddenly it was like we got a hit, and then all of a sudden it was like you're going right back in, and we're gonna do this version of this thing now that's called Brotherhood, and it's like wow. I guarantee you there would have been times where I would have thought, well, I don't know that he would say it like that, right? Like maybe it would be this. But there's not a lot from like a character development standpoint that I would want to weigh in on, because I usually don't have the entirety of the story or where they need this to go or how it's going to work. But I would just stay true to like what I feel they're asking for or trying to get achieved or accomplished with a character. But no, I wasn't sitting there saying like, you know what I think we should do? There'd be maybe an element where I might push back, but I don't think that I was out there pushing forward.
It must be rare to work on a character from their birth all the way to their death.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I always laugh and I go, I didn't make the crying sounds. That would have been fun, too. Little baby Ezio, even that, the accent was all wrong. It was probably one of the rarest of treats that I've experienced in my career, is to get to like play a character that starts off in sort of like adolescence into back then what would have been like middle age, like probably their 20s. You know, to then like their old age into their like late 30s, 40s kind of a thing. No, it was a blast. It was fun to get to like experience that, explore it, and then to button it up with embers was the ultimate treat, and the ultimate, you know, slow tear from the eye. But it's so rare because usually you just kind of go in, boom, do a character, move on. And with this, got the chance to basically play out the entirety of his life. It was really cool.
It's hard to imagine that the Ezio games came out in the space of 3 years. Did the recording process change much across the games at all?
Actually, the recording process changed quite a bit. For AC2, it was strictly VO. It was just strictly me and a vocal mic, and that was it. And then working with, with the staff on conjuring up the performance. And then about maybe I want to say like halfway through Brotherhood, we started doing camera work for that. They were doing like reference camera, which was an interesting thing because suddenly I was having to be aware of like my facial expressions and things like that, which is so. It drives me nuts for just straight VO. It's like I want to live in the mind. I want to like theater of the mind kind of a thing. I don't want to have to worry about whether or not I'm making the right facial expression for the character. And then into Revelations, we started doing work with facial motion capture helmets that were sort of cranked onto our heads to kind of capture some of the performances. But yeah, so in those 3 games, in the span of 3 years, like it had all changed so much. And now, 15 years later, I guarantee you, It's a completely different process. So yeah, it was rapid fire for sure.
Do you have any favorite scenes from the games? Are there any that people come up and ask you to recite?
You know, at times, the sad part is like people will sometimes commit like an entire speech to memory, and they come up and they start doing it, and I'm like, yes, and my brain's going, I don't remember it. But the moment for me, my favorite moment from Assassin's Creed 2 was when he makes his first assassination, and he stands up in the town square and basically says, you know, the auditore are not dead. I'm still here. Me, Ezio auditore. And it was a fun moment because I remember looking to the engineer and saying like, hey, I'm gonna go loud on this. And he's like, yeah, we got you, you know. And I blew out because they didn't give me enough headroom for the recording because he didn't realize I was gonna go that loud. And I was like, no, this is his moment. This is him after watching his family being brutally assassinated in front of him. He's coming after everybody, and this announcement to the town, and more like it just kind of shouting to the stars, I felt like, for him as a character. And it's that turning point too, I think, for the character, where it's like he realizes what he's now unleashed and is setting out to do. That moment for me is just, yeah, I would do it right now, but it's so loud. So
It's been 15 years since the Ezio trilogy ended. Are you surprised by how the character has endured and how much he's still loved?
well, I'm floored by all of it. Like, you know, when you meet anybody who shares, this is the nicest thing about being a voice actor, but it's also one of those things where I feel quite guilty because I cannot take credit for the entirety of the experience that a player has when they play a game, because the music, the lighting, the everything, the dialogue, the you name it. It's the NPCs, the world that is created that the gamer gets to experience is not something that I'm necessarily, oh yeah, no, I came up with all of that. I'm the lucky guy who gets to get, you know, behind a microphone and make, you know, bodily function sounds behind it for a living. And so when you meet people that have played it and they just go, oh, this character, this moment, this thing means so much to me. Yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, 15 years later to still meet people and to still find fans who have started playing the Assassin's Creed games at different times, fell in love with a character and then went, I want to know more about this. And so they'll go back. And they'll like reverse engineer it. They go back to say, oh, I started with Odyssey, or I started with you name it. And then they go, and then all of a sudden I wanted to go back, and so I played the first one, and then I started playing from there, and and now all these different characters. So yeah, the idea that this many years later, that people are still coming up to me and talking to me about Ezio, and that it still means that much to me as well. Like it's a neat thing. Again, it's your job is to be a voice actor. It's not to be, a hero or anything like that. And so when you get to be a part of something that has an impact on people and they share that with you, it's the best thing on earth, and yet not expected. So yeah.
Have you ever been surprised by stories of how much the character meant to people?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop. To this day, I still meet people that are sharing new stories with me about their playing through the game and what it meant. And I meet people who get quite emotional about it at times. And that, again, that's where I feel sort of guilty, because I'm like, I get it that I get to be this tangible thing that you can come up to at a convention or meeting you on the street, or that kind of thing, and you suddenly get to hear this story of something that they were enduring in their life. And I just think, well, that is the entirety of the gaming experience, not just me as the voice. And yet it's more difficult for them to go up to somebody who worked on the background or the lighting or that kind of thing, and all of these things that influence the quality of a game, and that Assassin's Creed does so well. But I get to be the voice, and they get to hear me do it, and to say like a line or two, and to watch them light up. It's very humbling, and it always makes me feel not uneasy, but I just feel guilty, because I'm like, I'm the lucky guy who gets to get that kind of attention from people who just want to share something, and I do my best to try to pass it on to people that work on the game scale. Like, no, hey, it's one big, collaborative effort, and you should know, like, people are deeply, deeply affected by this, and it never gets old hearing that somebody was going through a really rough time, or somebody experienced something, or just a fond memory of like, hey, we lost my brother, and my brother and I used to play these games, or one of my fondest memories was watching my brother play this, or my sister or my grandmother like enjoyed it because she loved Italy, and so she enjoyed watching us play, and so we think of my grandmother, stories like that. I get to be on the receiving end of. You just go, wow, who'd have thought? Like, again, took an audition, got a job, took off. Here we are, this many years later. It's like, yeah, it's quite fortunate position to be in.
You returned to voice Ezio a few years ago for the Assassin's Creed Nexus VR game. Did it take long to get back into character, or was it like slipping back into an old pair of comfy shoes?
Or slipping on a comfy hidden blade. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Like it's like you can never go back, and trying to recapture or trying to conjure up or get back to like where I was at in 2008 when we would have been working on the game for the first time. It was all brand new and fresh, and so it carries a certain element of excitement. And obviously you're going to be working with an entirely different crew that many years later. So it was just like, wow, you can't go back. But that said, Ezio's Ezio, and it's like, and it's like, thankfully that you can't deviate too far from that character before even I would start to go like, that's not what he wouldn't say it like that, or, you know. No, it was a lot of fun to go back. I'm always in my head about this character because I know I love this character so much, and was so deeply honored to get to be a part of that franchise and to get to be known as that character, that this many years later I feel like, oh man, if I just fall short just a little bit, it's going to be such a letdown to people. And so that's, you know, I'm trying to get out of my head with that when returning to something like that. But no, that was fun. That was a big surprise to me to go like, really? Okay. I'm like, Ezio's back? Like, how they doing this? Like, okay, now it makes sense. We got a VR game coming out, and I was like, okay, maybe that animus, maybe we're going to explore some other elements of his life, maybe.
Do you think there are more Ezio stories to tell?
Yes. Make it happen, please, please. Yeah, but again, I mean, there's so many other areas you could visit within the story. But that's not for me to even speculate or to imagine, because honestly, you guys do a far better job of that than I do. So I would be thrilled to see if there was more to be done. But my gosh, I could, like, you know, you think about the fact that we kind of skip through timelines, that kind of thing. There's a lot of little elements of what led up to those moments that I'm sure they could, you know, piece together. Yeah, I think there's a lot. That's the cool thing about the Animus. Don't you agree?
Of course.
Okay.
You've provided so many iconic voices over the years. Chris Redfield, Sonic the Hedgehog, Batman, Captain America, Say Yes to the Dress.
Yes, my finest work.
But while some voice actors are instantly recognisable, whatever the role, it's hard to nail down what makes a Roger Craig Smith voice. Is it important for you to find something unique in each character?
Yeah, because actually nothing irritates me more than when somebody goes like, all I ever hear is this in everything he does. And then I just want to go, seriously? Like Ezio? You hear Ezio in this other? Like, no, you don't. Yeah, I would like to, it's interesting. I've heard another voice actor talk about the fact that we borrow vocal qualities, we never borrow performance. And so I will be in the middle of a session with somebody and they start suggesting something, and then I go, hang on, if we're going to do this, you should be aware of the fact that it's close enough to this, that we need to come up with either a different laugh or a different cadence or something. I need to throw in something else to give this a more unique quality than just a vocal print. And that's the job. It's like, I'm trying to create character, not just make a voice. So yeah, I'm always doing everything I can to make sure I'm staying true to this. Vocally might be similar to something I've done. There's only so much the human voice can do, but I'm not gonna do it if I feel like it's getting too close to something that's like character-wise. Yeah, I'm always struggling to try to make it be like different, you know. And even sometimes from game to game, you know, it's like, well, let's do this. What if we made him a little bit older, a little bit this, or a little more grizzled, or that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't always get it right. Don't always get it right.
How did it feel saying goodbye to Ezio at the end of the recording of Embers?
Brutal. Embers drives me nuts to this day, only for the fact that we had recorded Ezio's sort of like monologue at the end in one pass. And I wanted so badly to get another pass when I had kind of wrapped my brain around the significance of it, what we were saying, and the delivery style. And unfortunately, we just were running out of time, and we had to get so many other elements like wrapped up. And I honestly didn't even know like what Embers was going to be. It was just like, oh, I figured this was just going to be like a short to sort of supplement some of the gameplay or that kind of thing. I didn't realize what it was that we were recording, and then I saw it and watched it, and it was just like, oh, like to this day, like what I wouldn't give to go back and just do it a little bit more. But I think that's pretty standard for most people. It's like, you know, you watch something you've done, and you're like, I could have done that better. Why did they pick that take? You know, I would have done this differently, or that kind of thing. But no, it was very sad, but I loved it. It's melancholy, right? It's like you just go, this is so neat, what a rare opportunity, what a cool thing to be a part of. How great that I get to like tie a bow on it, which is, again, rare. And yet saying goodbye to like a franchise or a character or that kind of thing is like, that's tough. That's tough.
Thank you for everything you brought to the character.
Oh gosh, what am I supposed to do? Thank you. I am this lucky human being who got to be a part of this thing and just wants to show up and do a good job for his director and his client and all that. And I'm deeply honored to be a part of this franchise. And it is absolutely bizarre to be sitting here, you know, this many years later and to get to talk about it and just kind of go, yeah, it's. I mean, don't tell anybody I would have paid you guys to be able to do this, because it was that much fun. It really was. Working on this franchise has just been like one of the highlights of my career. Yeah, phenomenal staff, phenomenal people, incredible memories working with everybody, and then to see this incredible product come out as a result that resonates with people all around the world. It's incredible. So thank you.